Okay, so you can barely see. There's a view there. Look at that. Man, that's crazy. I've been out hiking for like an hour and a half. Actually probably maybe even 2.5 hours. It's been long enough that I'm very hot and sweaty, and I look like a mess just because it's been I think the hottest day of the year so far. We're in a heat wave, and so that's been interesting. But where I'm hiking, there's a cave, and so I was able to sit low enough along the rocks that you could feel the breeze coming. Really, really cool air, and that was a godsend, quite honestly. So yeah, I'm out here. First time in months that I've been out here on this hike, but first time in about a month that I've been just able to do, whatever I want, without any sort of hindrance of, oh, well, I got to be home in time for this. So very excited to be out here. Very happy to just be in nature, away from everything. And it's been so long that I've had just a moment to breathe. There's a bunch of ants by me now. I'm watching them, so we'll see once they start crawling up me and everything. But yeah, I've been reading a lot for the past 2 years. Specifically, though, this past year has been a lot of bigger novels, because before I had kind of just been reading a lot, and it would range from a big novel to 3 short novels to 3 plays or something like that, and just kind of bouncing in between. There was never really a consistent thing. But this past year, kind of starting, I think it was December 19th. I actually have the exact day, if you can believe it, that I started. I read The Hobbit. I reread it, and it was the first time I had read it in years. I reread The Hobbit, straight into Fellowship, and then from Fellowship straight into Two Towers, and then straight into Return of the King. That took me about a month and a half, starting with Fellowship, ending with Return of the King. I think February 10th was the day I finished Return of the King. And I didn't even write those down. They just are in my memory because it was that important. Phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. I'm not making this video to talk about Lord of the Rings, that I could, but that's way too much. Essentially what I'm saying is this has been an interesting year. I've been trying to read the bigger books that in my collection, and that includes the Count of Monte Cristo, which I just finished reading last Friday, so about a week to today. And I want to talk about it because I don't have anybody in my immediate group of friends or family who really care that much about it. And if they do, then they're too far away from me right now. And yeah, so all that to say, I started the Count of Monte Cristo one night after I had finished reading We, which is a pretty short dystopian novel. I heard a lot of people joke calling it 1983 because it's like very obviously an influential source for Orwell's 1984. It's almost like you can read them as a companion piece. But I finished We. That took me about a week and a half, just because I had a lot of stuff going on. And so I decided that night, I was like, you know what? In a couple of days, we're going to be going on vacation. I have a stack of books that I want to read, but I'm also looking at Count of Monte Cristo, and I'm thinking to myself, like, this is either going to be something I actually read or it's something I put off for years. And even then, there's no telling what would have to happen in my life for me to be able to finish it in a concise time. But knowing that we were going on vacation, I was thinking, okay, I know on vacation in the past, I've read upwards of like 600 pages of books. You know, last year I had read Cormac McCarthy's Suttree, phenomenal book. I absolutely loved it. And anybody who says they like Cormac McCarthy and doesn't know what Suttree is, they're a fake fan, bro. I'm telling you, man. They're posers, LARPers, whatever. I read that, and then I tried to read Normal People by Sally Rooney. I hate that book. I hate that book with a passion, bro. And it's probably due, in fact, to like the girl that told me to read it was just not really a person that I should be taking book recommendations from. Didn't like it at all. I hated it. I didn't even make it halfway through. I was like, I'm done. I'm not reading this anymore. And then I read Romeo and Juliet and it was called like Les Enfants Terribles. I can't speak French, ironically, since I'm talking about Count of Monte Cristo. But, and those books all tallied up to about probably like 700, 800 pages. So I was like, okay, feasibly, I could get a lot of Count of Monte Cristo done if I read it during the week that we're at the beach. There's a car coming, so it's gonna get quiet as I'm just kind of sitting here. Okay, I think he's leaving. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so I decided I was gonna read Count of Monte Cristo. I read it one night, got maybe 20 pages in, and then over the following week, I got to about page 50, and then we went down to the beach. I read another 50 pages, and then that next day, our first day at the beach, I read 100 pages, and then I made it a point that each day we were there, I would read 100 pages. So by the time we left, in about 8 days, I had reached page 936, I think. And it took me about 2 more weeks to finally finish it out, just because things were so busy and hectic. That being said, it has been almost a full week since I have finished the Count of Monte Cristo, and chills, man, chills. I mean, I'm thinking about it now, and just in retrospect, all the thoughts that I had going into it to now that I finished it, like what was I thinking versus like I'm so thankful that I read this book, because it was life-changing in a way. It was life-changing. And I've seen a lot of people on Instagram. I don't have TikTok. I don't do none of that. But I've seen a lot of people on Instagram talk about Count of Monte Cristo so much that it's like almost like a rite of passage. Like, oh, you got to read the Count of Monte Cristo because it's like a way to flex on people that you're intelligent, that you've read so much. And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of people just really were passionate about the book, because it is a daunting task to read 1,243 pages. But especially for somebody like me who has only ever really read short stuff, it was a test of faith for me, because I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to finish this in a concise time, or if I'll get tired of it or something. And I did not get tired of it. There was never a point in which I felt the pacing was lacking, where I felt as though I was getting bored with a story. Whatever moments I felt like I was like, oh man, this is kind of boring, immediately the next chapter would bring me back in. Specifically, as I look back on it, I think more of like the narrative, like the plot line of Valentine, and I'm gonna mispronounce the names probably. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't speak French. I didn't have anybody telling me how to pronounce them, so I just went with my own enunciations. Hopefully you get it. But with Valentine and Maximilian, their entire romantic subplot and everything that was entailed with that, and Valentine's grandfather, you know, I didn't really feel like I cared that much about that going into it. I was just like, yeah, whatever, man. Let's just get to the revenge. But then, like, seeing how Alexander Dumas, like, blends these together in such a way, it was so amazing. It was so amazing, because I was like, holy cow, this is the most detailed intricate like thing I've ever read in a concise single narrative novel. And I mean, more than anything, I think what was most fascinating was getting to a point where even the villains I could sympathize with, right? The villains, these people that portrayed Edmond Dantes into sending him away even, were people that I kind of was like, dang, this sucks, man. That really sucks for them. To varying degrees, mind you. Like, I mean, when I read it, I remember reading the part where Dantes gets thrown into, and I'm gonna mispronounce it, I know, but the Chateau d'If, the giant island, right, where he's there being held prisoner. I remember reading that and thinking to myself, bro, like, I need him to get out so he can kill these guys, like, just straight away, man. No and buts or ifs about it. Ifs, haha. But I need him to kill these people because like, this is wrong, bro. And it was just funny because I thought that the Count of Monte Cristo would be so much more focused on him in prison trying to escape. And in reality, spoiler alert, that ends at about page like 200 something. Like, he gets out of prison by that point. And then you still have like 1/6 of the novel was dedicated to that. The rest of that, 5/6 of the novel still remains. And that's the part that I was like, how is this going to go? Really just well-written characters. I mean, everybody there was deplorable. They were also times where they were sympathetic, and I just really am amazed that it unfolded the way it did. I'm going to get into spoiler territory here, but it's necessary. Now, I really could not stand Albert, right? De Murkoff, whatever. Fernand's and Mercedes' son. I hated him, bro. Just so arrogant, just kind of like a pain to have to read his stuff. And he doesn't even, like, all the time, right, that he's talking about how much he's like, oh, you know, I'm so cool, bro. I'm that guy, man. And then finally, you just kind of, you get to a point where you're like, dude, I hope bad things happen to this man. And then even him, and like, after it's revealed that his father did everything he did, right, to Heidi's Haiti, I don't know, to her father, right? And it's like, okay, he's now got the shame that he has to bear, knowing that his father was a war criminal. And he goes to the Count of Monte Cristo and he says, like, hey, bro, we're dueling because you dishonored my father, and I will not stand for that. You're bringing shame upon my family, and I'll kill you if I have to, just to restore a little bit of that. And then I remember, bro, reading it in my room, and Dantes is talking to Mercedes, and Mercedes is just like, I'm not going to lie, like, Edmund, like, I feel bad about how the way things have gone, but I can't change the fact that this is my life now. And you've held on to the past thinking that I would be the same Mercedes, and I'm not. And I have a son now who I love. I might not love my husband, but I made a promise to him. And in doing so, I am bound by this marriage to also care for my son. And I mean, like, that pissed me off, because I was like, bro, Mercedes wants the Count to die now, because even the Count was like, okay, I'll let him win, you know. And I was like, bro, please, no. But then everything unfolds, and, you know, Albert's just like, I'm not going to do this, man. Like, my father was in the wrong. That's something I'm going to have to live with. I don't want to kill you over something as simple as this, right? Now, obviously, I think Mercedes had a hand in that. Obviously, she had to come to him and be like, hey, don't do this, you know. But it shows his growth. And I went from being like, bro, Albert needs to die, bro, just because I don't like this guy, to this is a real character, man. This is somebody who changed, and for the better, who is like, yeah, I know that my father's brought shame. he was a soldier, and through his time in the military, that's how he got his riches, but it was a shameful thing. I'm going to start in the military from the lowest rung, and guess what? If I never get to that point, who cares? At least I'm bringing honor to my family's name. Awesome, bro. Awesome, man. Now, I thought it was interesting, too, the way that Ferdinand kills himself, because of the shame, is just like, I was like, good. I was like, good. I don't really care. He's a bad person. He deserves to die. And I think that that's so interesting because it does kind of show like a sort of foil to his son, Albert deciding like, I'm not going to go through with any of this. I'm going to be strong, right? And I'm going to make my own life. I thought that was really cool. When it came to Villefort, man, he was going through it, dude. I was like, this is crazy. I actually kind of feel bad for him. Madame Villefort, evil, bro. Evil, glad she died, horrible. But also that part of Cavalcanti, I don't know how I pronounce his name, Andrea, whatever, being the like the son of Villefort and Madame Danglars, bro, was like insane. And I know that they mentioned that already, like halfway through the book as well. But getting to see him go to the courtroom and be like, yeah, I'm on trial for getting through this like scam and murdering Calderus, but like also my dad's here, and he's the crown prosecutor. That was so interesting. And then like again, having that go alongside of Villefort like condemning his wife and being like, look, you killed my daughter, you killed my my mother-in-law, you killed my father, you killed my mother-in-law, you killed my daughter, you killed my butler, and you tried to kill my father as well. Like, you're done. Kill yourself. Essentially just kill yourself. And then everything that happens with that was genuinely crazy. Did not really feel bad though, to be honest with you, for the family. They were all kind of evil. Even Edward, I know, controversial, I guess, but evil people, man, evil families. And then Danglars, I thought was interesting too, because again, it's just each one of their judgments fits their personality, and I thought that was just so interesting because it'd be too easy to just be like, and then Dante's killed them, He doesn't do that. In fact, like he models the revenge in such a way that it's personal. It's reflective of what Dante's had to go through, and it's awesome, man. Specifically, I thought it was really interesting, Danglars, his revenge that's, put into prison by Luigi Vampa, whatever. And I was like, bro, he's just giving money away. Like, that's it. He has like 5 million, whatever currency it was, by the end of it, he has like 50,000, right? And he's starving himself because he refuses to give up his pride, right? This money is his what makes him him. And then finally, Dante's is just like, all right, if you apologize to me, then you can go and you can have your 50,000, right? And Danglars does. I might be misremembering that part a little bit, to be honest with you. I was just really hyped up on the fact I was like, I'm about to finish this book. But I remember that, like, he was just like, all right, you can go. And Danglars was like, finally. So he goes and he's washing his hands, washing his face, and he notices in his reflection that his hair is gray. And like, it doesn't really say how long he was in there, but you probably like long enough, and it was just like, it maybe even says how long he was in there. I don't really remember, but just like having that be how it all ends, I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Because I was thinking this entire time, Edmund is going to just kill him, dude. He's going to kill him, and it's going to be like, look at me, look who it is. It's Edmund Dantes, and guess what? I'm coming for you. I've been coming for you. All your friends, all your family, ruined. You're done, bro. I'm going to kill you. And he doesn't. And I think that's what was so interesting about it. I'm like, all my thoughts, personal thoughts aside about the plot, the characters, everything, the pacing. Now I get to the whole point that I want to get at. It was one of the greatest novels I've ever read. less of the fact because people are always say it is the greatest novel, one of the greatest novels ever written, but because while I was reading it, my expectations were never met, but met fully. I remember getting into it wanting Edmond Dantes to kill these guys because I was like, this is horrible. How they could do this and live with themselves afterwards is insane. But there was something so interesting about having Dantes talk about God implementing him as a tool, saving him from the hopelessness, right? Of his situation back in the Chateau d'If, where he meets Abby Faria, I don't know. But just like gives him new hope, gives him a life that he needs to grasp and hold on to because his journey isn't over, you know? I think it was really inspirational to me, especially just because given like what I'm going through in my life right now and this weird transition that I'm going through. And to be able to read that and be like, look, it's all about taking initiative, you know, and not letting yourself be defeated. And there's such a Catholic dogma intertwined into the narrative, which I really appreciate, because Dantes doesn't take it upon himself to go above what God's commanding of him. And he even says that after Villefort goes crazy, you know, because Edward, Villefort's like son through Madame Villefort, is killed by Madame Villefort after she's like, okay, well, if you're gonna take me out, I'm taking my son. So that happens, and Villefort goes genuinely insane because at this point he's lost everybody except his father, and his father, you know, he doesn't really like his father. And Edmond Dantes is like, dude, have I gone too far? Like, this is really bad. Like, holy cow. So he travels back to the Chateau d'If. He gets a tour of the place, and he's even given like the information from a secondhand source about his own escape. And he remembers like, no, I know what I'm doing. There was a purpose behind this. I have to see this through to the end. God has ordained me for this. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, he's going to kill Danglars. He's going to kill Danglars. And he doesn't. He forgives him, man. And I was like, bro, I love redemption stories, man. If there's one thing I love in any sort of story, it could be the worst story ever, but as long as there's a little bit of redemption, some sort of theme of a redeeming storyline, it at least gets a better rating for me. This book, though, man, it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. I really, 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 really loved the central theme, man, of this story. And I mean, maybe the central theme to me is different than it is to other people, but this idea... Sorry, thought I heard another person coming. The central theme, this idea that revenge is God's, right? And that the best thing you can do in pursuing vengeance is just be kind to people, you know? Is not to have a hand in it where you're going above and beyond to be like, I'm going to ruin this guy's life. Just, you know, letting them ruin their own lives through their own bad decisions and just bringing up their past sins as a way to be a catalyst, you know? I guess what I'm saying, like the central theme of just sins will not go unpunished, right? And take the initiative, right? See God's will through. Different things, I mean, there's so much you can do. I mean, it's 1,246 pages. There's so many themes there. But that's essentially what I got out of it. So I really did love it. I really, really, really did love it. I'm so thankful that I read it, that I can finally say that I've read it. And now moving forward, I'm like, I will read more Alexandre Dumas stuff. I know really just only the Three Musketeers and that series, essentially. So I'll read that one day. It's got me really interested in French literature, which I had probably dabbled in a little bit, but never to this extent. So I do want to read Victor Hugo as well. When will that be? I don't know. And what will I read? I don't know. Les Mis is 1,400, like 62 pages, and that seems like a lot. And I know that Hugo just kind of writes long-winded descriptions of things. I feel like, though, I gotta read it, though, at least once in my life. So we'll see, man. We'll see. And yeah, right now, though, what I'm reading is the Iliad, and that's been pretty cool, I guess. Really long, and just a bunch of names. But that's been pretty cool. So I've gotten about 60 pages left to hit halfway. And I it's not even been a full week since I started that. So we're looking to finish within maybe a week and a half or so. And then after the Iliad, I'll read the Odyssey. And after the Odyssey, the Aeneid, or the Virgil one. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Then after that, I'm probably, hopefully, maybe thinking about starting Don Quixote. Just to get all the big stuff out of the way. So yeah, then the semester probably will start by the time I'm reading Don Quixote. I've got a lot of stuff going on, so it's kind of a thing. But yeah, I don't know how far I'm gonna hike. Still, it's 6:02, and yeah, I would like to get home before it gets dark. But anyway, that's my thoughts on Count of Monte Cristo. Yeah, pretty cool, great book.